Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is we try to break down pro wrestling and put logic where there isn't any, or try to convince people that logic should be part of pro wrestling. In any event, we are here for the Raw review for the 10th of August, 2020. Overall, not a bad show. Some good angles in it, but also some really, really ignorantly stupid stuff. And so it's a mixed bag, like always. A lot of people, from what I've been reading online and other commentators, have liked the show more than me. But I'm more critical because I was in the industry. I think commentators who've never done it, they don't know always what to look for. But anyway, so we opened the show with a tribute to the late James Harris Kamala, who passed away. Some people are saying due to COVID. Some people are saying complications due to his failure of his kidneys. Anyway, regardless, sad that he's passed away. The announcers run down the card for tonight. They do another contract signing. This is probably number 83 for the year of 2020. They never end well. They don't serve a real purpose. Anyway, I don't like them. And I might do one a year, maybe. Probably one every 2 or 3 if I were promoting. Because they're predictable and they don't do anything other than save or fill time. Anyway, Samoa Joe's in the ring. Seth Rollins and Dominic Mysterio are out. Joe says he's going to try and keep things professional. Byron Saxton says that Joe will lose his job if he becomes physically involved. I'd love to know what governing body made that decision. Joe introduces both men. He tries to get in Rollins' face without going forward, and Joe makes a hyperbolic statement that Seth Rollins could have been the best superstar of all time, but he's or of his generation at least, but he's lost because the crowd got under his skin. And Joe talks about what it did to Ray, and then Seth says he's going to give Dominic the chance to walk away, and he should pick the right choice. Then Dominic comes out, and he says this war will never be over and the fight will never be enough. He says Rollins changed his father, and he also changed Aleister Black for the worst. And he said he was going to fight for himself. Rollins says Dominic is on the verge of becoming a WWE superstar. Easy for me to say, and should be thanking him. Exactly for what, we don't know. The WWE existed before Seth Rollins and will exist long after, at least we think, unless the ratings keep dropping at the rate they are. So Dominic said that he had a dream, but now his dream is to kick the backside of Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. So a guy who's never had a match before, let's get this right, a guy who's never had a match before is going to get his first WWE match on the biggest show of the year, and we don't know what he can do in the ring, and we're all supposed to be excited. How come? Why? We couldn't have shown him training. We couldn't have shown him having mentorship, even if not with his father due to injury. We couldn't have shown him building up for the match. We just throw him out there and hope it sticks. Stupidity. Anyway, Rollins says that Dominic wouldn't last 10 seconds in the ring with him in a real wrestling match. 10 seconds probably is a lockup and an arm drag. I think he could pull that off. Anyway, Rollins allowed Dominic to use his kendo stick or any other weapon he wants. They sign the contract. Dominic signs a second one, and Rollins congratulates him, and then they go into the match. I'm sorry, I got distracted there for a second. They go into the match with Seth Rollins and Alberto Carrillo. They go just over 3 minutes. Rollins has Murphy at his side. Carrillo has Dominic. Uh, Murphy distracts Carrillo, and then Dominic uses the kendo stick. Carrillo is distracted long enough for Rollins to get a counter, followed with a super kick power bomb, and a curve stomp for the pinfall win. So, 3 months ago, Carrillo was the hottest Latin American star since sliced bread, and now he can't even last 4 minutes. Murphy attacks Dominic post-match. Dominic fights back, tackles Rollins, but Murphy makes the save and overwhelmed him. Rollins hit Dominic with the kendo stick 4 times. Then they take off his shirt. They beat him some more. They tie him up in the ropes, and both guys, Rollins and Murphy, beat him with the kendo stick. Rollins looks into the camera, taunts Ray, asks Ray if he's praying for his son or thinking about his son. You know, I don't even know. So Rollins hits Dominic in the chest, stomach, and Murphy hits him in the back. He's bruised up. He's got welts. Dominic collapses finally when he falls out of the ropes, and Rollins looks into the camera and says, "To be continued, Ray." Okay, so they got good heat with this. And if there had been a crowd, it would have been brutal. I even think they went a little too overboard with the number of shots taken. But I've been around and a fan since the original Sandman Tommy Dreamer caning, and Dominic Mysterio's no Tommy Dreamer. Anyway, actually, I've been around since the Tommy Cairo bit, which is even before, but most people won't even know what that is. Anyhow, Dominic has no friends. So he's a guy who hasn't wrestled before, whose father is a mentor to many of the guys in the back, and not one of them will come out to help him. Not one security guard, not one cop, not one WWE agent. No one will come out to help Dominic. I don't understand the logic of he gets beat up for several minutes and nobody cares. You know, Samoa Joe says he's handcuffed at the desks, but he believes in Dominic's ability to win at SummerSlam. Anyhow, so Zelina Vega comes out after a recap of the Retribution, I guess, ring destruction on SmackDown. Zelina enters with Andrade and Garza. Someone in the audience yells, "Put the music back on" when they do cut it. Zelina says she had nothing to do with poisoning Montez Ford and noted that would jeopardize the championship match for her team. She creates the success for her charges, and she said they would win the titles at SummerSlam. Fine promo. Zelina is one of the bright spots as far as promos go with younger talent. Anyway, Angelo Dawkins defeats Andrade with Zelina and Angel Garza in 4 minutes. The match begins post-break, and they plug Big Show's Netflix show during this. They might have shown a grand total of 2 of the 4 minutes. Dawkins seems to have the match won. Vega distracts him, and Dawkins manages to give Andrade the pop-up spinebuster for a pinball win. The announcer said Dawkins got retribution for Ford. I don't know why this is retribution. So Bianca Belair takes, with Dawkins staying out there with her, defeats Zelina Vega with Andrade and Angel Garza. Belair in control. Zelina rakes the eyes, and Belair mounts a comeback, misses a tackle, hits the ring post. Belair follows in soon after, and hits a power bomb and a KOD for a pinfall win. Good for her. Although they could have turned this into a six-person. Charlie Caruso asks if she has any evidence that her husband was poisoned. Belair looks like a complete dumbtail as she says nothing. She says they keep their careers separate, but it's obvious that she poisoned him by osmosis or something. They close with wanting the smoke. MVP's VIP lounge with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. MVP says there's a conspiracy against him and blamed the lights and everything else on Apollo Crews. Crews interrupts. Crews says that MVP always has an excuse. He's coming up with his own excuses for missing time. Crews says he's glad to be back and holding on to the U.S. title that MVP paid thousands of dollars for. How does Apollo Crews know how much the belt cost? Did he see the receipt? Anyway, MVP then moves into a situation of, I guess, decent power, and that ultimately is he's talking about the upcoming match at SummerSlam. Bobby Lashley easily could have destroyed Apollo here. That, however, is not the case. Apollo picks up a couch and hurls it across the room. Then we go into a match with Shelton Benjamin with MVP and Bobby Lashley defeating Apollo Crews in a non-title match. How come this is a non-title match? Since they basically want to get the belt off of, meaning the Hurt Business wants to get the belt off of Apollo Crews. You would think they would have negotiated for a championship match. Anyway, Lashley tries tripping Crews. Crews stops and kicks at him. Then referee saw all this happen. Does nothing. So the referees are basically impotent. Benjamin uses the distraction to apply a schoolboy. And Benjamin gets a win with the schoolboy. Stupid finish. I suppose we're going to a 45-year-old Shelton Benjamin as the next contender for the U.S. Championship. Love that youth movement. Anyway, Lashley's going to put Crews in the full Nelson. MVP stops him, says that he needs him fresh enough to go for SummerSlam. And Tom Phillips has gotten word that the Retribution group has thrown a cinder block through a window at the Performance Center. With all this vandalism and other tomfoolery, wouldn't there be a police report filed by now? One security guard tells them to get out of here and go home. There's 3 of them, maybe 4. There's one security guard. These are interesting odds. One of the masked fellows responds with, "No, you get the hell out of here and you go home." Another guy tosses a cinder block through a window, and then they toss a second one into the already exposed hole. Okay, so we go back. Mickie James is back. Mickie James is closing in on 40, and she's, I guess, the new young thing for the women's division. Anyway, she tells Sarah, the interviewer, that she has a big announcement, got a lot on her mind. Lana and Natalya interrupt here, and Lana wonders how she could lead a locker room when she doesn't even have a TikTok. I did not know that having social media was a prerequisite to leading a wrestling locker room. Natalya reminds Mickie James, in fact, that she has the winningest record here in WWE. I do wonder why that means that her entire career is so irrelevant, because I can think of some matches she's had over the last 13 years that are decent, but nothing that's a Hall of Fame moment. If somebody can, please correct me. I know she had a match with Charlotte that was good. I know she's had a couple of matches with maybe not Trish Stratus that were decent, but Natalya feels like a lame duck to me and has for several years. Mickie says that Natalya has in fact been riding her family coattails. and Lana and Natalya say that Nikki is rude at the same time. Then we have an 8-man tag team match. Number one, I don't like these because I don't like multi-person, but they go less than a minute and a half, which is just ridiculous. Why trot them out there and put them in their gear to go less than a minute and a half? Anyway, this is the Viking Raiders, Ricochet and Cedric Alexander defeating Akira Tozawa and 3 ninjas. Viking Raiders give the Viking experience for a pinfall win to one of the ninjas. One of the ninjas refused to get in the ring. This is later revealed to be R-Truth. This is a horrible segment. R-Truth is currently a 37 or 38 time 24/7 champion. That's a lot of numbers. Anyway, Charlie Caruso interviews Drew McIntyre. He says that Randy Orton has a death grip on the torch that's he ripped from Mick Foley years ago, so we're going back to 15 years ago when most people watching right now weren't even fans, some of whom weren't even born yet. Anyway, McIntyre says that Evolution has passed him by. Caruso asks, what if Kevin Owens ripped the torch away from Randy Orton tonight? Randy Evans? No, not quite. Anyway, McIntyre said they'd have to have a conversation about the future of Raw if that happened. So he wants to fight Randy Orton and he wants to converse with Kevin Owens. Interesting. Interesting role of a champion there. Peyton Royce with Billie Kay defeats Liv Morgan with Ruby Riott in just over 2 minutes. The Iconics cut a lame pre-match promo. They mocked their opponents and called themselves Iconic. Yeehaw. Kay hops up on the apron and Ruby Riott follows suit. And Morgan is distracted by all of this. This allows a spinning brain buster to be hit by Royce for a quick win. Ruby pleads with Morgan afterwards. I'm not quite sure why. Shane McMahon greets his security and lets us know that Raw Underground's up next because it's 10 p.m. And Riddick Moss beats Cal Bloom with a punch, and Shane's doing the hype thing the whole time. They stop this once it's figured that there's a knockout here. There really is no rules. Asuka defeats Women's Champion Bayley with Raw Champion Sasha Banks in a decent match, 15 minutes, 9 seconds here. Asuka hits a beautiful missile drop kick on Bayley for the 2 count. Post commercial break, there is an ankle lock by Bayley, but Asuka gets to the rope. Bayley distracts the referee, and Banks attacks her. Asuka applies the octopus hold and transitioned into an armbar. Bayley counters that and gets a near fall. Bayley uses an Indian Deathlock, and then that's countered into a knee bar by Asuka. Bayley fights out. Asuka is, following up with a code breaker for a near fall, and then a flying elbow drop for near fall. Bayley uses a spinning back fist and a power bomb into the buckle. Bayley mocks Kairi Sane. Asuka catches her with the Asuka lock for the win, and this earns Asuka a title match at SummerSlam against Sasha Banks. I don't know why it wouldn't earn her a match against Bayley, but who cares about making sense? Anyway, beautiful match. Best match of the night, probably best match of the week. I would think. Maybe not that far, but certainly, probably for WWE, I think in the top 2 or 3 best matches of the last 7 days. Arturo Ruas beats his opponent with a spinning kick in Raw Underground. Then we see Dabba-Kato easily beat his opponent after basically grabbing his groin and punching him out. Shayna Baszler gets in there. She gets right in the face of Dabba-Kato. Shane tells him to leave the ring. Baszler attacks someone on the outside. She proceeds to take out 3 women. And Baszler looks strong in this whole thing. Shane tells us to tune in next week. And then we see Retribution kicking a turned over car outside the building. Why are they beating up cars? Who are they? Why are they here? Like, just having... So, you've got 2 different masked factions on the same program. That's stupid number 1. Stupid number 2 is you have them, no one's speaking for them, we don't know why they're here, we know absolutely nothing, and we're supposed to care. Like, where did storytelling of, like, having them have a mouthpiece or something, or even, like, the old Nails voice modulator, something, anything go towards giving us a reason to care? Because right now there is absolutely no reason to care about this whole angle. Anyway, speaking of something worth caring about, we spend the last 15 minutes of the show on a Randy Orton Ric Flair segment. This was beautifully done. Orton starts by saying that he's got every reason to be angry at Ric Flair, but he couldn't be mad at the Nature Boy. He said there's no reason for him to have to have fought Kevin Owens tonight, except Flair opened his mouth and inserted his foot, and Randy had to clean up after him, basically. Orton mentioned getting into some trouble, and Flair was the only one to help him out several years ago. He's alluding to the fact that he got into legal trouble. Orton respected Flair before, but doesn't anymore. He doesn't love Flair anymore, and Orton called Flair a liability, which technically at 71 years old and a heart condition, he is. Orton then said that Flair wanted him to be the son that he wished he had. That's a little uncomfortable. And then Orton asks if Flair's crying. He was not crying. Orton then says that that's all Flair's good for anymore is to cry. Orton yells at Flair for having health issues. He says that Flair is an adrenaline junkie. He doesn't have it anymore. He's not the real Ric Flair anymore. Flair takes the microphone. He says he's taking things seriously that Orton's saying, and that Ric Flair of 2001, when he originally met Randy Orton, isn't here anymore. He admitted he liked being with Orton because, yes, he does like the spotlight. He's a 71-year-old man being on TV. He mentions that Hulk Hogan calls him up, and Flair's telling him how great it is, which I found hilariously funny, especially the night before Hogan's birthday. Flair says he wants to be there with Orton when he eventually broke his record, talking about beating John Cena's record, and he says Ric Flair called Orton the best performer in the business, and he loved being with him. Flair says he's nothing more than being Charlotte's father at this point. He says after being in intensive care for 31 days, all he wanted to do was tell people that he cared about, that he loved them. Flair became emotional. He wanted to be in Orton's corner. When he broke the record, Orton slapped the mic away, hugged him. Flair turns around, and Orton gives him a low blow. And then the lights flicker as Orton sets up for the punt kick. Orton punted Flair as the lights went out, and the lights came back on. Flair was completely down. McIntyre sprinted out to the ring. Orton bailed out as soon as he sees McIntyre. Officials check on Flair. Beautiful, beautiful angle. I hope it leads to Flair hitting Orton in the groin, and then McIntyre getting endorsed by Flair for SummerSlam or after SummerSlam or something. I think that an alliance between McIntyre and Flair as the new guy would do him a lot of good. And if you're going to use Flair anyway, if you're going to take the trouble and risk of flying him in, might as well put some steam behind the guy. But again, this is not a good program. 2 decent matches. I mean, I didn't even cover the Orton and Owens match simply because It was every boilerplate plate match you've ever seen, and the only thing that mattered in it was the angle. Anyway, till next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.